thought of the name actually came from conversations I would have had with my grandmother, because I always remember my granny saying, if we were kids and watching TV, and my granny would come in and say, oh, you watch too much TV or whatever. And in my day, we all sat around the Jawbox. And I go, Granny, what are you on about? So the name the Jawbox was the colloquial nickname for the Belfast sink. Mm-hmm. And back in the day when people sort of maybe hadn't the money to go out so much, they would have gathered around the scullery, mostly hanging out in the kitchen because it would have been the warmest room in the house. And so they all would have gathered in the kitchen around the sink and told their stories, shared their tales, whatever, all the jokes, all the crack was around the sink. Yeah. So because all the crack and the talking around the sink, the Belfast sink got the nickname the Jawbox, because people were just all gathered around it. Yeah. And I just thought, well, whenever I was thinking of Jawbox and creating a brand, I never wanted to create a brand that give the image of somebody sitting on their own in a wee corner, or I wanted it like a group of fellas like us sitting here, a group of friends enjoying a drink, sharing them same stories, telling the same tales, celebrating, commiserating over a drink.
In the kitchen too now.
In the kitchen,
just as we are.
So that's how the name came about and how it all started.
Yeah. I think the branding is something that we kind of wanted to talk about as well, but maybe get into that a wee bit later. But one thing we were talking about just before you came was the sort of thing where you hear a lot of like entrepreneurial stories are starting whenever they're like 16, 17 or something, but obviously like you would say yours started a wee bit later. Did you feel
no, I mean, I'll be honest with you, whenever I was about 16, 17, I'd had a few goes at other businesses. I used to have my own magazine, and this would have been when I was about 18. It was folk music magazine. Right. And then when we were doing the magazine, people would have asked us, what do you do in a magazine? Have a wee band, you do posters.
What was it called, the magazine?
It was called Pure Folk Magazine.
Right.
And the company was called Leprechaun Promotions.
Right.
And the reason I called it Leprechaun Promotions was because it was a small business and I was trying to get a small business grant, and I thought that would have helped. I quickly learned that calling the business Leprechaun Promotions was maybe not the best idea, because when you were ringing up and people would say, where are you from? And you would go, I'm from Leprechaun Promotions, and they would go, yeah, dead on. Nobody really took you serious. But I mean, we don't quit. I mean, we manage concerts. I don't know if you've ever heard of a band called Moving Arts.
No.
Way back it was Christy Moore band. We managed Clonard. We managed a brilliant band called Half Foot. So really exciting. I had that for about 4 years, maybe a bit more even. And it was really exciting because as it grew, then we were setting up tours for bands. Now, being very young and being new to running businesses, instead of staying in the office and doing the work that needed to be done, we went on tour with the bands, which wasn't the most sensible thing to do, but it was brilliant crack, and we learned a lot from it. So, and then when I was very young, when I left school at 15, I'd done as everybody does, is your mom makes you do a trade, and I was a plasterer by trade, so I started my own plastering company called Decoplast. Right. But I quickly learned I was a crap plasterer and wasn't very good at it. And then it's plus the fact that it's really, really hard work. Like an electrician can go in, a joiner can go in and do a job, and they can stop, have a cup of tea. Once you start plastering, you can't leave it till that sets. And if you're doing ceilings, it has to be one of the most difficult, strenuous, hard work in the whole building game. So, as I say, I wasn't very good at it. So I'd always had that sort of entrepreneurial spirit. But back then, things being what they were, Belfast was a completely different place then. And my parents were very sort of old-fashioned, and they were, no, you have to be on a job, you have to be on a proper job. And go out and earn a living. And they didn't see that I was in some ways ahead of my time. Like when I was running the promotions agency, I was driving a brand new car. Nobody in our family had ever drove a brand new car. And I thought this is a massive achievement. But you were sort of you were just got a wee clip and place up to yourself.
Aye.
So
Yeah.
but it was a brilliant experience.